Hey Ben, what's up?
How's it going, Parker?
Good. Life is good. Welcome to episode 2 of Developer Meets Designer.
Welcome.
We are going to be talking about the new year that we're in. We're going to talk about some goals, individual and business and contracting and freelance and whatever. And then we're going to segue that into how I maintain a work-life balance. So,
sounds good. Let's dive right in.
Dive right in. So do you have goals for this new year? As an individual first.
Yeah, so we're going to segment it out. So first individual.
Yeah.
Kind
of keeping it relevant to design.
Right. Yeah, I'll get into my personal life. No. So my goals for the new year are to strictly be freelance for the entire year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty intense.
Yeah, without any affiliations with like agencies, companies necessarily. Hopefully I'll be doing work for companies here and there, but I would like to not even be contract.
Wow. So that also means, as we talked about last week, taxes.
Yeah, quarterly taxes are going to be key.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Is that the major one, or do you have multiple?
Yeah, as I thought through it, that's my major one. I want to do mostly web whole site designs.
Okay.
For small businesses or whatever comes my way, and then I also want to do some branding as it coincides with like a web web company or web design company. So what about you?
I'm going to try to keep it to individual, but I'm very cross-bleeding all over the place here. I'm not sure that's the way to say it, but really looking at coding a lot more this year. I finished grad school in May, so after May it's going to be super go at it. I'm still going to work on my stuff before then, but getting back into doing web apps. I've been mostly mobile apps for the last 3 years. So this is kind of where it bleeds over. I'm starting a company with another guy I know.
Yeah. What's that company?
It's called UVise, and it's an education company. I'm not gonna get into the details here, but
yeah, that's
so I'm working with him on this company, and so it's gonna be a web app though, and so trying to get back into Rails after 3 years of doing iOS and Android.
Cool.
So that's probably a big portion of both balancing that. Like I said, it's gonna be work, but it's an individual goal of mine anyway, was to get back into web apps and just coding a lot more.
Yeah.
Dealing with time management to do so.
How'd you choose Ruby Rails?
Ruby on Rails?
Yeah. Sorry, there it is.
There's an on in there.
Yeah.
So Ruby on Rails, I first discovered it back in 2007. I was doing hardcore Java Enterprise stuff at the time for the military, and I was just thinking there's got to be a better way, and I wanted to learn more.
Mm-hmm.
So I was Googling at the time, and I found out about Rails, and I watched this as a screencast, and it's like how to build a blog in 15 minutes was the screencast.
Wow.
And yeah, I know. And so this is the first thing that just sold me. Yeah.
Wow.
So I looked and I watched the screencast, and I'm following along, and I'm like, that's just magic. There's no way that's possible. So I actually type it out myself, but it takes me like 25 minutes because I'm learning it as I go.
Yeah.
But then I had a little blog engine that I wrote in 25 minutes.
Wow.
And it's not WordPress, but it's a little blog thing.
Yeah.
So I was really impressed, and so I used it from 2007 until 2010 when I started grad school. So for those 3 years, and a lot of it was just doing like contract freelance stuff. I published one app on my own, but it was mostly just for building a portfolio.
Yeah. Is that what your portfolio is now?
No, my portfolio now is just kind of a smorgasbord of of everything.
Yeah.
I also looked. There's another popular framework called Django, and that's for the Python language. And because you don't really necessarily care, the Rails 2 to Rails 3 was this big merger with another another framework called MERB. And I was like, oh, when they made that announcement, I was learning MERB at the time, and I said, okay, well, I'll just wait for that merger to happen, and I'll learn Django in the meantime. Well, I ended up taking many moons off of Rails to learn Django, waiting for that merger. And so that's a really popular one too. It's also very good. I like them both. I'm pretty language agnostic in that way, but so goal: get back in the Ruby on Rails, get back into doing web development. I'm going to spend a lot of time this upcoming year looking at doing a lot more JavaScript.
Oh, okay.
I've already done a ton of JavaScript in the past, specifically with jQuery, but 3 years ago, the entire JavaScript front-end side of everything for web apps was a lot different with it as it is now.
Oh, okay.
So today, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but there's a few what they call MVC model view controller frameworks for JavaScript, which basically is a way to separate out your code to make it really, really readable and really usable for lots of developers. So I had done plugins before for jQuery, which are just small snippets of code that anybody can reuse.
Right. Yeah, I actually use those in WordPress a lot.
So yeah, so those are great for like one-off things here and there. But if you're going to build like the entire spectrum of things, making it just do all sorts of crazy stuff, then you'll probably want to use one of these MVC frameworks that are come out in the last 3 years. So the popular 3 that I'm looking at, and there's more than this, are one's called Backbone, and I've seen the code before, but I haven't used it at all. I haven't used any of these frameworks at all. Another popular one is called Ember, and it used to be called Sprout Core, and that one's actually created by one of the guys who was part of the MERB Rails merger, and so he's got a pretty big following, and he's a really, really great developer. His name is Yehuda Katz. So anyway, I'm going to look at that, and then the third one is called Angular, which I think is just a funny name, and that's created by a bunch of guys out of Google.
Oh.
So, wow. And all 3 of those are like really top-notch frameworks for JavaScript stuff that I haven't had the time to look at the last 3 years. And getting back into web dev, I try to at least keep my fingers in things to know what's going on, so I don't fall too far out of.
And what are the best tools to do what you need?
Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing, is I don't know which one of those I'm going to focus on first. I think Backbone's probably the most popular of the 3.
Mm-hmm.
It's also lower level, so you're going to have to write more code in Backbone than you would for the other 2.
Okay.
The other 2 provide a lot more out-of-the-box functionality.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So I'm not going to discredit or turn off any of them. I'll probably just start with Backbone, though, and make that my go-to first, just because I know a lot of companies in the Boulder area use it. And but then I'll definitely look at the other ones. The other ones I probably won't look at until late summer, though.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's personal age goals. Business goals.
Business goals.
You kind of said freelance all year. But
yeah, mine are, that's similar, right? Wow. Brain's not, let me grab some coffee first. Business goals, I think, go on the same lines, but at the same time, I'm actually hoping to start 2 more businesses this year.
Oh.
One I can't really talk about too much,
okay.
But the other one is I have a company, Bird's Eye Creative, that I do a lot of photography stuff with, and I'm actually going to melt my design, my personal design. Right now I have like benmercurydesign.com and then birdseyeCreative.com. Ben Mercury Design, it has all my design portfolio.
Okay.
I'm actually going to keep that, but kind of put it on the back burner for now, and do a Bird's Eye Creative design and Bird's Eye Creative photography. So that kind of encompasses all the creative stuff that I'm doing.
Okay.
One, to protect myself, it's going to be an LLC, so everything I do will be under that umbrella for tax reasons and all that kind of stuff.
Smart.
And so in January, I'm going to make that transition by the end of January.
You mean now?
That's one of my...
It's already January.
Yeah, by the end of January, I want to have that switch happen. Cool. So I'm really excited about that, because then I can make it, in my eyes, more of a agency feeling than just a like I do photography and I do design, but they're completely separate right now. Mm-hmm. So I'm really excited about that. That's probably the biggest thing on my plate right now is trying to figure out how that's going to play out and make sure it's user friendly and makes sense to the person that's visiting my site.
So are you going to keep anything on the old benmccurrydesign.com, or are you going to just have links to forwards to create Birdseye, or are you going? How are you going to split that up, or are you going to leave stuff that was done through Ben on there, and then only add new stuff to Creative, or?
I think I'm going to keep Ben McCurry Design as is right now, and then start migrating projects that I'm currently working on, like you were saying, onto Birdseye. Along with some of the bigger clients I've done, I'll probably migrate over to Birdseye, just because even though Birdseye wasn't paid for those necessarily, I am Birdseye, so they were like Birdseye's client, if that makes sense. So yeah. I want to operate by the end of the year completely under the umbrella of Birdseye Creative, is the goal. And so I'm not sure exactly how that's going to look. Maybe you can help me make those decisions. So we'll
maybe.
see.
I actually have a total different segue question that I'm going to ask you after I get into some business goals for myself.
Yeah.
Talking about online reputation, and we'll get to that in a second, and you'll see where I'm coming from. Business goals for me specifically, I'm going to start the company with that guy.
Yep.
I also have the same problem. I have davidwparker.com. I go by Parker, by the way. Just to clarify.
It's his last name, but he goes by it.
Yeah.
So.
People think it's weird, but I don't know why.
His name is not Parker Parker.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I have davidwparker.com, and then I have ideallyapps.com, which is my LLC.
Right.
So I publish my Android apps through Ideally Apps, but I have like a blog and stuff on my own, and I have some games I've made and stuff on my website, and trying to balance that all out. But that's not really a business goal, but you just kind of made me think about it, and so
yeah. That's
all I'll ask you about it. So starting that company with that guy, and then coding a lot more, and probably most of my time is going to be working with him. We're definitely sticking to it through May / October. We are currently in Techstars Rising Stars program.
Wow.
So yeah, we have a 1-year one-on-one with a venture capitalist that we get to meet with.
Wow, congrats, that's pretty big.
It's super awesome. At a Foundry Group, totally awesome Boulder-based firm. They just raised their third round of $250 million. So we're meeting with this guy every other. Well, it's about.
Just to be clear, your company didn't raise that.
No, no, we did not. The venture capitalist did, but we get to meet with the venture capitalist.
That's yeah.
So we meet with him 1 or 2 times a month and discuss where we're at in our progress of this company. And so we started that in October, and now that we're kind of close-ish to Techstars Summer, we need to have some stuff getting done.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm trying to relearn Rails and everything as fast as possible to get our product out there. Mm-hmm. The guy I'm working with already he's a subject matter expert in the area we're focusing on, which is college education.
Yeah.
And he's written a couple books, and a couple universities, half a dozen or so, already use his books. Wow. So we're going to try to convert those book sales to be the web service sales. But we need that to happen before March.
Yeah.
So we can get into Techstars this summer, the formal program. And that would start in May or June. If we don't get in, then we're just still going to stick with it for sure through the end of October as we work with a venture capitalist.
Yep.